Hello, I'm Mark Derbyshire. I work for UiPath. I'm part of our SAP go-to-market. Joined UiPath after a decade at SAP.
Like Mark, I've got lots of shared history with SAP. Started my career with SAP about many decades ago. I'd love to say the number of years, but I'd be showing my age by then. I head up Centelli, and we're looking at the great things that we can do with UiPath and helping customers migrate successfully from ECC to S/4HANA. Extremely interesting topic. And Mark, you've been around SAP a long time. In your experience, what role has applications like SAP fulfilled in organizations?
If you look at what SAP say about themselves, their customers address something like 80+% of the total global commerce, and something like 98% of the world's largest customers in the world run SAP, over 300 million users globally. Its focus increasingly is around the financial processes, order to cash, tax, treasury, procurement, and accounts payable. Money and money flow is intrinsic almost to every activity within a business, and so therefore is ERP, hence it being that central nervous system.
SAP has existed for many decades, and it has mastered business processes at a global level with the complexity that actually exists deep down. But the challenge is that when SAP had ECC as an application that came out and they standardized and simplified things with ECC still ran on traditional database architectures. It was designed to optimize application processing at a mega scale on those traditional databases, and it optimized things like locking, single record updates, and all the things that those databases did well and worked around things that it didn't do well. With HANA, SAP has changed the paradigm, and the database operates in a very different way, which means how the applications architected has become quite different. Now, rightly so, SAP can't support both ECC and HANA. They've put all their eggs with HANA, and they want customers to migrate because that's the application they're going to maintain. So the deadline of 31st of December 2027 is fast approaching, and that's when they were going to stop supporting SAP on ECC. If customers haven't migrated, they're going to see a much higher support bill overnight or no change in product and arguably a degraded service. So customers that are on SAP ECC don't have a choice, and they're going to have to migrate to HANA. So customer vendor integration is one of the big topics in that migration, and it changes the way you look at it because you treat an organization as a company with whom you could do business, you could sell to them, and you could buy for them, and you can see your relationship in totality versus saying, what am I doing with company A as a customer, and what am I doing with them as a vendor? So there's a massive upside to it, but it is complex.
So why is the move to S4 such a big challenge for many organizations?
It is pretty much like re-implementing SAP. And anybody who's done SAP knows that it's expensive, takes time, and needs a lot of energy to do. It flips the view of the business on the program from being a business project to a technical project. Every SAP system has the ability to create a sales order. You might be an expert at creating sale order in one system. You cannot go to any other system across the world and create a sale order because of the way it is configured.
What's the typical approach that companies might take when they're going on an upgrade?
This is going to be a big project. And no doubt that there's going to be an SAP expert consultants involved who will bring the experience and help the company through this migration. When the project starts, key users, process experts in the business are going to have to get involved because they're the ones who understand the business process and how it's being transacted on the system. They have to keep business running whilst making sure that everything that's been upgraded is working, and they meet the business's demands of saying, well, we're spending millions doing an upgrade. What business value are we getting out of it?
When you talk about brownfield, there's the potential for the business not to actually get the value for some time. And with greenfield, the value comes in a lot sooner, but potentially the impact on the business is significantly greater. What can we do beforehand to address some of these things?
When a project's running, the project has the consultancy, and there are plenty of methodologies out there that will say you do things in a certain sequence of steps in a very regimented way that gets you results quick. However, the timeline that's put to each step is quite tight. So what we're trying to do with the Centelli's SAP HANAReady solution that's powered by UiPath is we're trying to provide this information to customers up front before the project starts to say, what is the nature of the data that you have, your master data? What's your profile? How many customer vendor do you have that are overlapping? How many of these are actually the same thing that you could do duplicate and get rid of? What's your material master looking like? What you're doing is you're giving the business time to do a cleanup that they should have been doing anyway. But in classic world, we leave things that don't have direct business value to the side because it's a debt we keep piling onto our systems. UiPath and automation automation is an amazing tool to pick up those tasks that we're not able to get to because we're short of time, but they're routine and they're very repetitive that we can automate. So what we're trying to do with the SAP Get HANAReady solution is use UiPath to automate these tasks, provide businesses with profile of their data, help them do the cleanup before the cleanup actually needs to be done, cutting down on project cycle time, making it faster, making more reliable, and making sure that the long-term business value is retained.
Make sure that the data sets are as ready and as prepared as they can be for when we actually do the migration within those 48-hour windows.
The key thing to part of this is making this regular. So what we're trying to do with this is we're providing businesses with the tool to make cleanup process a regular process without putting strain on the business resources. So you're able to effectively get more out of your solution because it's being cleaned up.
So, in a standard S4 program, you're going to want to do things like process mining to understand how does the company currently use the system? Are my processes efficient? Is there a lot of rework? Is there a lot of process variation? But also within the individual steps of those processes, how much human activity, how much manual work is going on in there? And can that be automated as well? Can that be addressed with an automation technology as well? And that allows you to put together a much better business case for what your 2B system could look like, because it allows you to directly impact productivity of your key workers. It allows you to have a much higher testing rate. You can test more in a unit of time, but also you're not dependent on people in order to do your testing.
If you had a team of, let's say, 15 people on your project, with automation, you could have 50 bots doing 24/7 and effectively get the output of 500 testers.
You can also use that combination to identify useful sets of data that you want to use to drill down into, should we say, particularly sensitive or complex test scenarios. I don't often want to test the obvious scenarios, but I might find that in my business there's a particular set of edge cases that actually cause me a lot of issues. I want to test them very well, and I need the exact right set of data in order to do that. So that combination of data profiling and testing allows me to do that very nicely.
People are still doing the decision making of what needs to happen, but they're not doing it. They're handing it off to bots.
We've identified a bunch of areas where we can make a difference with the combination. And where would you want to start?
Customer vendor integration is top one. Another one is material master cleanup. A third one that comes up is retiring assets. Your asset value might be zero, but the amount you're going to end up paying for that HANA compute space is not zero. Bring the size of your HANA database down, make it more efficient. Let's be fair, what we're proposing here isn't a one-time activity. This is something that's needed ongoing. And hence, if you automate it, you can still make sure that you're getting the process done without doing it yourself. Actually, the decision steps are very few. And what you can do with automation is you can have a business user just enter those and let the other 20 steps that might need to be done automated. If you're going phased, you can use automation to keep your data in sync across your systems. So whichever path you go down, you have an impact of additional effort that's needed, and using automation to mitigate that is a clever way of making sure that you can be more sustainable and long term.